Today on Business Success in 6 with Stacie, I have Mills Botham here from Botham Vineyard and Winery just outside of Barneveld, Wisconsin. Thanks for jumping on with me, Mills.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Stacie.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited to ask you 6 questions about your vineyard, your winery, your rich history. So if you're okay with that, let's go.
Absolutely.
All right. When people ask you what Botham Vineyard and Winery do, how do you describe it?
It's very straightforward. You know, our what we do is right there in the name. We own and operate a vineyard and winery just outside of Barneveld, Wisconsin, here in the driftless region of Southwest Wisconsin. The point of distinction is that we have a healthy, full-grown vineyard here. We've been growing and producing some of Wisconsin's best wines for 30 years. Like I said, pretty much everything you need to know about us is in the name. We're a vineyard and winery.
Beautiful. I love it. Just a quick side question. Do you do white wine or red wine? Tell me a little bit about your wines. I'm sure our viewers want to know as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We produce a menu of 12 different wines, 5 whites, 5 reds, and 2 blush wines. And we grow here exclusively red grapes. Wisconsin, for all of its wonderful proclivities, is not great for growing white grapes. There's a handful of red varietals that will grow here, but there are not many white varietals that we can really get ripe and grow to the kind of caliber that we want here. So a portion of our red fruit and all of our white fruit we buy as juice from the Finger Lakes region of New York. Primarily, there's a little bit from Washington State and a little bit from California as well. But we do also grow a large portion of our production as well. We still make all the wine, we just don't grow all of the grapes. Our vineyard isn't big enough to meet demand, and we can't grow enough of the grapes here.
Well, and it's so interesting that you share that information about Wisconsin not being a place where you can grow green grapes. So thank you for that. Yeah. So what were your plans when you started the business, and how have they changed? I know we talked a little bit about your father starting it in 1989. Do you want to share that story with us?
Yeah, so the condensed version is my grandfather owned a number of beef cattle farms out here in this part of the world, including the one that is now the vineyard. My dad, after a good period of kind of self-exploration and bouncing around on the East Coast, figured out that what he wanted to do with his life was to be a business owner and to own and operate a vineyard and winery. So he reached out to my grandfather and bought this piece of land from him, which was then a beef cattle farm. That my grandfather wasn't working himself. He owned it, but had others managing it for him. So my dad bought this farm from my grandfather and converted it from a beef cattle farm into what is now our home and our business. Many countless hours of hard manual labor later, and it's now a very healthy, successful, fully functional vineyard and winery here. Granted, that's 30 years of work to get it to that point. We've been in good shape for much longer. You know, it didn't take that long, but we've been at this for quite a while. And dad and mom both in different kinds of ways have put lots and lots of time and energy towards this. So the vineyard dad put the first vines in the ground in 1989. We got our first usable crop in about 1992. And we opened our tasting room, which is our on-site retail location, here in 1994. I came along a couple of years later, so I wasn't here at the beginning of the business, but I've kind of been alongside it in various capacities for most of my life, and certainly for most of my adult life. I left for a few years to go to college and to work elsewhere, and then kind of came back into the fold a couple months ago. Getting kind of back into the business with my folks, helping them transition to a point where they don't have to work quite as hard as they have in the past. And looking at the way we've done things and the way that we can do things in the future, so that we can continue to grow our business and meet demands and continue doing what we do well and adding on some new areas too.
That's so exciting. And the fact that there's such a legacy there from your grandparents' farm to yours, or to your father's and now to yours, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So what is the biggest way you impact the community?
We have a great deal of sense of place here. If nothing else, it is my opinion that no business exists in a vacuum. It's not possible to run and operate a business without, in some way, shape, or form, being involved with your community. Because we operate, send wine in and out of here on public roads. We interact with the general public, with customers and things like that. So it's not possible to run a business without being involved in your community in some way, shape, or form. We're active participating members of our community. We sit in or we help. I shouldn't say we help with, we're not actually on the town board or anything like that, but we're involved with our community in that way. I'm involved in a couple of service organizations. And we do a fair bit of philanthropic work with the community as well. We've given thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product and things like that away over the years to any number of charities and organizations that we believe in and have worked with. A couple of those have included the Iowa County Humane Society, the St. Mary's NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. I was a preemie baby and spent a fair bit of time in the NICU as an infant, so that one's near and dear to our hearts. Absolutely. As is the Humane Society, of course. We love animals and have had a full menagerie of pets out here over the years.
I bet.
And also a wonderful organization called Nora's Giving Heart, which is run by two of my dear friends, Dave and Andrea Elsmo, in memory of their daughter Nora, who passed from childhood leukemia in 2021. They run a wonderful organization as well, and so those are a couple of the charities and things like and organizations that are near and dear to our heart, and that we've been involved with and giving philanthropically, either financially or have donated wine for things like that as well. And there are lots of other organizations that too many to name, but those are the big ones.
Thank you so much for actually telling us exactly some of those big organizations, because they are so heartfelt. And I think what a lot of business owners need to understand, what our coaches talk to them about, is you have an awesome opportunity to give to organizations that you believe in and that are near and dear to your heart. So thank you so much for sharing that specifically. Of
course. It's a difficult thing sometimes, because we want to do as much good as we can and help as many people as we can. And everybody has a good cause. Everybody who comes asking has a good cause. So we just by nature of necessity have to be a little careful with how and how much and where and when we give away. But we pick the ones that are closest to us as best we can, and we help as many as we can.
That's wonderful. So I know working with parents or taking over a business, succession plans can be challenging. What is one business challenge that you have faced so far that other business owners could learn from?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'm relatively new at this, the running of a small business here. So I can't imagine that I will say anything that's surprising to anybody or something that lots of others haven't encountered before me. The one that has been most surprising to me, or at least has been necessary to a greater extent than I was expecting, is you have to become a wearer of many hats. It's particularly true with the kind of business that we operate here, because it's farming in one way and retail in another and food production in another. Depending on the time of year, I do everything from forestry to farming to winemaking to retail to IT to property maintenance. There's a whole host of stuff that has to happen over the course of a year just to keep the lights on and keep the place running. My dad, I'm sure there are ones that I'm forgetting, and groundskeeping, landscaping, all kinds of stuff that goes into that.
Marketing, right?
Absolutely. Marketing, PR, working with distributors to get our product out to bars and restaurants and things like that. You have to be prepared to wear a lot of hats. You have to be able to jump from situation to situation, and for lack of a better phrase, kind of be a jack of all trades with stuff that needs doing. The best thing that I have found that is helpful for meeting that challenge is you kind of have to be constantly seeking new things to learn, new ways to do things, and new stuff to manage on your own. There are some things that you should outsource, and things that it's best to call in professionals. But I think people sometimes underestimate their own capacity to learn to do relatively simple things, or stuff that looks very daunting at a first glance, but in reality is not as difficult as you might initially imagine. We have the double-edged sword of living in a digital age in which access to information is everywhere. Some of it good, some of it bad, but you can learn to do so many things online and through libraries and through just talking with people who've been doing stuff longer than you have. I have found, if you ask nicely, almost everybody's willing to share at least some words of wisdom with you on how to run a business, or how to tackle some project that you're staring at and going, I haven't even the faintest idea where to start. because
Sure.
there's somebody who's been there before and figured out a way through it. And 9 times out of 10, they want to make your life easier than it was for them having to stumble their way through.
Absolutely.
I think to some extent we have an obligation to others to do things like that. You know, there's no point in making somebody work harder to find the solution that you've already come to if you can share it with them and make their struggles a little less of a struggle. So like I said, the internet, you know, your other people around you, business owners, people that have encountered similar, or even nobody's going to have exactly the same experience that you have, but somebody's going to have had a similar one and be able to share their words of wisdom. So you have to seek that stuff out, though. It won't come
Sure.
to you, and you'll spend more time bashing your head against a wall trying to figure it out on your own than you will if you just reach out and look for some help.
That's beautiful. Yeah, definitely ask for help and be open
Yes.
to learning. That's so great, great, great
Yes. And be
advice.
willing to share what you learn. That's just as
Yes.
important.
Paying it forward. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sounds like you guys do that a lot. So what
As
does the
best we
future
can.
look like? I'm sure you do. What does the future look like to you? And do you have an exit plan? So what are you thinking as you jump in here?
Yeah, so I have a 7-year head start on my dad. He was 32 when he started this. I'm 25. I'll be 26 in July. So I got a lot of years, long career of work yet ahead of me. I'm still a young man and have kind of a semblance of an exit plan. You know, I know what I want the back half of my life to look like and things like that. And I have a general idea of how I'd like to get there. But the future, at least in the immediate term here, I expect is going to be some early mornings and late nights. There's going to be a lot of nose to the grindstone for myself. I have immense amounts of things to learn from my folks, and like we were talking about just a minute ago, you know, the other friends and business people that I know, again, who have been so kind to share their knowledge. You know, my dad has 30 years of institutional knowledge with this place that can't be passed on in 6 months or a year or even 2 years. Knowing what I know about my folks, I expect neither of them will ever really fully retire. They'll both still be around in some capacity or another, which is a delightful thing to have access to that kind of a resource in them, and just to have them around. They're good people, and I enjoy their company, their wisdom. Dad and I have only tried to kill each other once or twice in the course of these first couple months. I'm joking, of course, but
of course.
where was I going with that? The future. So the future is. I expect will be a lot of hard work in the short term here. I'm anticipating making some personal sacrifices of time and energy, and, you know, putting some other things aside on behalf of making this place go and grow to the point that it needs to be, so that I can buy my folks out fully and be able to kind of to do this on my own and do this in my own way.
Okay.
The longer term, we are, or I guess in the immediate term here, we are expanding dramatically the amount of events we're doing in the course of a year that are kind of open to the public. We're bringing in lots more live music than we have in the past, some themed events, doing some special stuff for like Mother's Day weekend, or we're planning a Sangria Saturday event a little bit later in the summer and things like that. In the longer term, we're looking at how we can maximize this place beyond just what we do as a retail and as a beverage producer. We're starting to get into the world of event hosting and looking at doing weddings and corporate events and private parties, some of which we already do, but not really to the kind of extent that I think we could.
Okay.
That I think is the biggest area for potential growth for our business. And I'm really quite excited about that, what that holds in the next couple of years too.
That is very exciting. And it also leads me to my final question. What inspires you most?
Yeah, it is, curiously enough, it is the same thing that has inspired me in all of the avenues of work that I have had in the course of my life. The various student organizations and things I was involved with as a student, and my work after school for the university. And here now, it's always been the same thing. It's the people. Like we were talking about earlier, I think we have an obligation to our communities to be better, you know, to try to leave the world better than we found it, in some, even in small ways, you know, just being good to your neighbors and being good to your community and things like that. So we have a really extraordinary resource here in this place. You know, I think we produce an excellent product, and that we provide a place for people to come and enjoy their time. Good friends, good wine, good company, some of life's greatest joys as far as I'm concerned. And that's what keeps me going. You know, we have there are plenty of long days, plenty of days that you walk away from frustrated. You just try again the next day, start again in the morning, get a good night's rest, and take another crack at it. But what keeps me going has always been the people. We have a wonderful customer base, people that, my family and I have become friends with over the years that have just, have become like part of our family too.
Sure.
They've been good to us, and we try to be good to them as best as we can, as best we know how. My folks are wonderful people to work alongside. I'm getting to spend more time with my dad now as a 25-year-old than I have for many years prior while I was in school and working elsewhere. Time that I expect I'll be very grateful for one day. I'm already grateful for it.
Yeah.
And getting to work with him and my mom has really been wonderful too. There's a lot to be said for a family business.
Absolutely. So if somebody
Even when you're frustrated at one another every now
right?
and then.
Oh, I completely understand. I know we talked
Yes.
about that. But if somebody wants to get in touch with you to purchase your wine, to visit the tasting room, what's the best way for them to do so?
We're just about to open our tasting room for the year. We open the first weekend of March, noon to 5, Saturday and Sunday. Our hours expand as the weather gets warmer, of course. Things are pretty quiet around here in March, but you're welcome to start stopping by weekends in March. We'll have our full calendar of events up on our website, which is bothamvineyards.com, in the very near future. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook as well. Those are our primary avenues of reaching out for our customer base. And we're starting to build a little bit of a presence on LinkedIn as well for corporate events and things like that too. So those are all, yeah, that's kind of the idea. So those are all avenues where you can find me and find us. More than happy to talk with anybody who has interest in winemaking or what we do or anything to that extent.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mills. Good luck with the future. You're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time with your family. I can tell. Keep growing.
Thank you, Stacie. It's been a joy talking with you. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.